Hello everyone, and welcome back to WooEnglish. In our last B2 story, Why Do the Rich Buy Isolated Islands? Your reaction was impressive. Many of you stayed until the end. I saw your quiz answers. I saw your thoughtful comments. Some of you reached new star levels. That shows discipline. That shows real learning. Today we move to a powerful documentary story at B1 to B2 level. We are exploring the American dream. Is it still alive? Has it changed? Who can truly reach it? In this lesson, you will learn key vocabulary about mobility, inequality, ambition, and opportunity. You will train your listening. You will improve your pronunciation. And you will strengthen your critical thinking. Listen carefully. Think independently. And do not forget the quiz in the first comment. Earn your stars. Move closer to the next level. And if you are serious about improving your English, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you never miss a lesson. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Birth of an Idea. What is a dream? Is it money? Is it success? Or is it something quieter? Something deeper? Today, many people use the words American dream. But few people ask where it began. To understand it, we must travel back in time. The year is 1931. The United States is in crisis. Banks are closing. Factories are silent. Millions of people are unemployed. This period is called the Great Depression. Families are afraid. Parents cannot find work. Children leave school to help at home. The future feels uncertain. And in this difficult moment, a historian named James Truslow Adams writes a book. The book is called The Epic of America. In this book, he uses a new phrase, the American dream. But listen carefully. He does not describe expensive cars. He does not describe large houses. He does not describe becoming rich quickly. He describes something different. He writes about the hope of a better life, a life where every person has the chance to grow, a life where success does not depend only on family name, or social class, or where you were born. He imagines a country where effort matters, where hard work opens doors, where dignity belongs to everyone. This idea is powerful, especially during a crisis. Because when people lose money, they can still hold hope. And hope is strong. But an idea is only words at first. It must meet reality. And reality is never simple. Even before 1931, many immigrants were arriving in America. They crossed the ocean. They left their homes. They escaped poverty, war, or discrimination. They arrived with small bags and big expectations. For them, America was more than land. It was possibility. They worked long hours, in factories, on farms, in small shops. Life was not easy. It was often hard, sometimes dangerous. But compared to the places they left, it felt open. There were chances to move, to change jobs, to build something new. This feeling became part of the dream. But we must be honest, opportunity was not equal for everyone. African Americans faced segregation. Many laws limited their rights. Women often had fewer career options. Some immigrants were accepted more easily than others. The dream existed, but access to it was uneven. Still, the idea continued to grow. It moved from books into speeches, from speeches into classrooms. Teachers spoke about opportunity. Politicians spoke about freedom. Parents spoke about a better future for their children. Slowly, the phrase American Dream became part of national identity. It was not a law. It was not written in the Constitution, but it lived in conversation. It shaped expectations. It shaped ambition. It shaped migration. For millions of people around the world, America became a symbol of movement, of possibility, of reinvention. You could arrive poor and imagine becoming stable. You could start small and dream bigger. But here is the important question. Was the American dream a promise, or was it a belief? A promise means certainty. A belief means hope. James Truslow Adams did not promise success. He spoke about opportunity. And opportunity is not the same as guarantee. Some people succeeded. Some struggled. Some moved upward. Others remained in the same place. History would test this idea again and again, through wars, through economic booms, through economic crises, through social movements. Each generation would ask the same question. Is the dream still alive? But before we answer that question, we must understand something simple. The American dream was not born from wealth. It was born from difficulty, from unemployment, from uncertainty, from a time when people needed hope. And maybe that is why it survived. Because it was not about luxury. It was about dignity. It was about the belief that your future should not be decided only by your past. That effort matters. That movement is possible. That improvement is real. This was the beginning. Not a house, not a car, not a bank account. An idea. An idea that would travel across decades, and across oceans, and across generations. But ideas change, and in the next chapter, history will begin to reshape this dream. Was it strengthened, or was it transformed? The story is only beginning. Chapter 2. A Land of Arrival. Before the phrase American Dream became famous, people were already moving toward it. Long before 1931, long before the Great Depression, ships were crossing the Atlantic Ocean. They carried families, they carried workers, they carried hope. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, millions of immigrants arrived in the United States. They came from Italy, from Ireland, from Germany, from Eastern Europe. Later, others came from Asia and Latin America. They did not travel for adventure. They traveled for survival. Some escaped war. Some escaped hunger. Some escaped discrimination. They left behind language, culture, and family. They arrived with small suitcases and large expectations. For many of them, the first image of America was the Statue of Liberty. Tall, silent, facing the sea. For immigrants, it was more than a statue. It was a symbol of welcome, a symbol of possibility. But arrival was only the beginning. Life in America was not easy. Many immigrants moved into crowded cities: New York, Chicago, Boston. They lived in small apartments. Sometimes many people shared one room. They worked long hours, in factories, in mines, on railroads. The work was hard. The pay was low. The conditions were sometimes dangerous, yet many continued, because compared to their past, this life still offered movement. In America, jobs could change. A factory worker could save money. A shop assistant could open a small store. A child of immigrants could attend school. Education became important. Parents believed their children would have better lives. They repeated a simple idea: work hard, study hard, move forward. This belief slowly became part of the national story. America was not only a country, it was an opportunity. But opportunity was not equal. We must speak clearly. Not all immigrants were treated the same. Some groups faced strong prejudice. Chinese immigrants faced special taxes and exclusion laws. African Americans, even though they had lived in the country for generations, faced segregation. In the South, laws separated schools, separated buses, separated public spaces. Women also had limited opportunities. They often worked in factories or as domestic workers. Professional careers were rare. So the land of opportunity had limits. It offered freedom, but not full equality. Still, the idea remained powerful. Because compared to strict class systems in Europe, America felt flexible. In some countries, your social class was fixed. If you were born poor, you stayed poor. Movement was difficult. In America, movement felt possible, not guaranteed, but possible. This difference attracted millions. Between 1880 and 1920, immigration reached high levels. Neighborhoods formed around culture and language. Italian neighborhoods, Jewish neighborhoods, Irish communities. Churches, schools, and local shops helped immigrants adjust. Step by step, families built new lives. The first generation often struggled. The second generation often improved. The third generation often felt fully American. This pattern strengthened the belief in upward mobility, the belief that children can live better than their parents. Factories continued to grow, cities expanded. Railroads connected regions. America was industrializing, becoming modern, becoming powerful. Immigrants were part of this growth. They built railroads. They worked in steel factories. They produced goods. They shaped the economy. Yet tension also existed. Some Americans feared competition. They feared job loss. They feared cultural change. Political debates about immigration began early. Questions about identity appeared. Who belongs? Who is American? These debates continue today. But in those early years, one idea dominated the imagination of millions: possibility, even when life was hard, even when discrimination existed. The belief remained that effort could change the future. A worker could become a business owner. A child could become a teacher. A poor family could enter the middle class. The American dream was not yet clearly defined, but it was forming. Through factories, through classrooms, through neighborhoods, through sacrifice. It was built slowly, not by speeches, but by daily work, by small savings, by long shifts, by parents who believed in tomorrow. So when James Truslow Adams later gave the idea a name, he was describing something that already lived in people's hearts: a land of arrival, a land of struggle, a land of movement, not perfect, not equal, but open. Open enough to inspire millions. And in the next chapter, history will test this belief again. After war, after destruction? Will opportunity grow stronger, or will it change shape? The dream is moving, and America is changing with it. Chapter 3. The Golden Age. The war ended. Cities in Europe were destroyed. Factories were broken. Economies were weak. But in the United States, something different was happening. Factories were strong. Production was high. The country had not been destroyed by war. Instead, it had grown. After World War II, the American economy expanded quickly. New industries developed. Cars were produced in large numbers. Televisions entered homes. Household appliances became common. Refrigerators, washing machines, radios. Life was becoming modern. And with economic growth came confidence. Jobs were available. Wages increased. Many families experienced stability for the first time. This period is often called the Golden Age of the American dream. For many white middle-class families, the dream seemed real. A single full-time job could support a household. A father worked in a factory or office. A mother often stayed at home. Children went to school. Families saved money. Suburbs began to grow. Large areas of new houses were built outside cities. Each house looked similar. Small garden, garage, front door facing the street. Highways connected suburbs to cities. People bought cars. They drove to work. They drove to shopping centers. A new lifestyle appeared. Stable, predictable, organized. College also became more accessible. Programs helped returning soldiers attend university. Education expanded. A degree increased chances of professional work. Teachers, engineers, managers. The middle class expanded rapidly. For many families, the path seemed clear. Study hard. Find a stable job. Buy a house. Raise children. Retire comfortably. This image became powerful. It appeared in advertisements, in television shows, in magazines. The American dream now had a picture. A smiling family in front of a house. But we must pause. Because this golden age was not equal for everyone. African Americans still faced segregation. In many southern states, laws separated public spaces, separate schools, separate buses, separate facilities. Even in northern cities, discrimination existed. Housing opportunities were limited. Job opportunities were restricted. Women also faced limitations. Many women worked during the war. But after the war, many were expected to return home. Professional careers were often closed to them. Leadership positions were rare. The dream was visible, but it was selective. For some groups, it was clear and reachable. For others, it remained distant. Still, economic growth was real. Productivity increased. Factories worked day and night. The United States became one of the strongest economies in the world. Exports increased. Consumer culture expanded. People did not only buy what they needed, they bought what they desired. Comfort became important. Convenience became normal. Credit systems expanded. People could buy now and pay later. Confidence in the future was strong. Children believed they would live better than their parents. Parents believed their children would go further. The idea of upward mobility became central. The belief that each generation moves higher. But economic systems do not stay the same forever. Growth created expectations. Expectations created pressure. And by the late 1960s and 1970s, Changes began to appear. Competition increased. International markets grew stronger. Other countries rebuilt their industries. New economic challenges emerged. Inflation rose. Oil prices increased. Factories began to face competition from abroad. Some jobs became less secure. The simple formula of stability started to weaken. The Golden Age did not disappear suddenly, but it slowly transformed. The American dream had changed. It was no longer only about survival. It was about comfort, no longer only about opportunity. It was about lifestyle, a home, a car, a television, a university degree. But when expectations grow, reality must keep up. And when reality struggles, people begin to question. Was the dream permanent, or was it connected to a specific historical moment? The post-war period gave millions of Americans real improvement, real stability, real expansion. It strengthened belief in the system. It created trust in institutions. It created loyalty to the idea that hard work brings reward. But history moves forward, and economic systems evolve. In the next chapter, the dream will face a new world, a world of global competition, financial markets, and rising inequality. The Golden Age built confidence. Now that confidence will be tested, and the American dream will begin to change again. Chapter 4: Ambition and Acceleration. The Golden Age created comfort. But comfort does not last forever. By the late 1970s, the American economy was changing. Factories were no longer the center of power. Something new was rising. Finance, technology, global markets. The world was becoming more connected. In the 1980s, competition increased. American companies were no longer competing only with each other. They were competing with Europe, with Japan, with growing economies in Asia. The rules of the game were changing. Stability was no longer enough. Now the message was different. Grow faster, move faster, earn more. The American dream began to accelerate. Business leaders spoke about efficiency. Investors spoke about profit. Entrepreneurs spoke about innovation. The image of success changed. It was no longer only a factory worker with a stable job. It was now the ambitious founder, the bold risk-taker, the person who builds something new. Television and media promoted this image. Magazines showed young millionaires. Corporate leaders became public figures. Money became more visible, more celebrated, more central. The dream was becoming louder, more individual, more competitive. During this time, the stock market grew. Financial institutions expanded. New financial products appeared. Investments became part of everyday conversation. Retirement savings moved into stock portfolios. Risk became normal. But acceleration creates pressure. As companies searched for efficiency, many factories closed. Manufacturing jobs moved overseas. Regions that once depended on industry began to decline. Communities felt uncertain. Workers who had stable jobs for decades suddenly faced change. The promise of long-term employment weakened. The new economy required different skills. Technology was advancing quickly. Computers entered offices. Automation increased. Workers needed education, training, adaptation. The path to success was no longer simple. Hard work remained important, but strategy became essential. Networking mattered. Education mattered more than before. The dream became more demanding, and inequality began to rise. Wealth increased at the top. Corporate profits expanded. Executive salaries grew. But wages for many workers did not rise at the same speed. The gap between rich and poor widened. Some Americans experienced incredible success. Others experienced stagnation. The American dream did not disappear, but it divided. For some, it became bigger than ever. For others, it became harder to reach. Ambition was everywhere. Startups appeared in garages. Technology companies emerged. Innovation accelerated. Silicon Valley became a symbol of possibility. A small idea could become a global company. Creativity became currency. Information became power. The digital age was beginning. At the same time, global trade expanded. Goods moved across borders more easily. Supply chains became international. A product could be designed in one country, produced in another, sold worldwide. Globalization reshaped opportunity. But globalization also reshaped risk. Economic crises could spread faster. Markets reacted quickly. Financial instability became more visible. The speed of change increased. The dream was no longer calm and predictable. It was dynamic, flexible, uncertain. Some people adapted successfully. They learned new skills, entered new industries, embraced change. Others struggled to adjust. Communities built around factories felt abandoned. Old industries faded. New industries rose. The American dream was evolving again. It was no longer only about stability. It was about growth. No longer only about security. It was about expansion. No longer only about having enough. It was about having more. More influence, more income, more recognition. But acceleration always raises a question. How fast is too fast? And who can keep up? By the end of the 1990s, technology dominated the conversation. The internet connected people across the world. Digital communication changed business. Startups became global in months. The dream felt limitless. But when expectations rise quickly, reality can struggle to follow. Economic bubbles formed, and some eventually burst. The American dream was now deeply connected to markets, to investment, to global competition. It was powerful, but more complex, more fragile. In the next chapter, we will see how education and debt became central to this new version of the dream. If growth requires skills, who can afford those skills, and at what cost? The American dream continues to move, but the speed of movement is increasing, and not everyone runs at the same pace. Chapter 5: Education and Debt. The American dream was moving faster. Technology was growing. Global competition was increasing. Success now required more skills, more knowledge, more training. Education became central. Parents told their children, "Go to university. Get a degree. Your future depends on it." For many young Americans, college became the bridge to opportunity. A diploma meant access to better jobs, higher salaries, professional careers, doctors, lawyers, engineers, managers. The message was clear: study hard, graduate, succeed. But something was changing quietly. University costs were rising. Year after year, tuition increased, books were expensive, housing was expensive, living costs were high, many families could not pay directly. So students borrowed money, student loans became common. Banks offered credit, governments supported loan programs. At first, it seemed manageable. Graduate, find a job, repay the loan, move forward. But the economy was not always stable. In the early 2000s, technology expanded rapidly. Then in 2008, a major financial crisis hit. Banks collapsed, housing markets crashed, unemployment increased. Young graduates entered a weak job market. Some found work quickly. Others struggled. Some accepted jobs outside their field. Some worked part-time. Some delayed major life decisions. Marriage, buying a home, starting a family. Student debt remained, month after month, year after year. For many, repayment lasted decades. The American dream was still possible, but it felt heavier. Hard work was not enough. Timing mattered. Economic conditions mattered. Luck mattered. Education was no longer only about knowledge. It was about investment. A financial investment, a risk. Some degrees led to strong income. Others did not. Students had to choose carefully. What to study, where to study, how much to borrow. The path became strategic. At the same time, housing prices were rising. In major cities, homes became expensive. Rent increased. Down payments were difficult to save. Healthcare costs also grew. Insurance became complex. Medical bills could be high. The cost of living was rising faster than wages in many sectors. The middle-class lifestyle became harder to reach. The image of the American dream began to shift. In the past, it meant a house in the suburbs. Now, some young people delayed buying homes. They rented longer. They moved frequently. They valued flexibility. Remote work began to expand. Technology allowed new forms of employment. Freelancing, digital platforms, online businesses. The structure of work was changing. Security became less certain. Flexibility became more common. Some people appreciated this change. They valued independence. Others missed stability. They wanted long-term contracts, predictable income. The dream was adapting again. Education still mattered, but it did not guarantee security. Debt became part of adult life. For many, it was normal. Car loans, mortgage loans, student loans, credit cards. Financial planning became essential. Understanding interest rates. Understanding long-term payments. Understanding risk. The American dream had become complex. It required information, strategy, discipline. Opportunity still existed, but it was no longer simple. A degree could open doors, but it could also create pressure. Ambition remained strong. Young people still believed in improvement, still believed in movement, still believed in possibility. But the path was longer, more expensive, more uncertain. The idea that each generation automatically lives better than the previous one began to weaken. Some families continued to progress. Others experienced stagnation. The dream was no longer automatic. It required navigation, careful decisions, adaptation to a fast-changing economy. And now a new question emerged. If education is expensive, if debt is heavy, Who can afford the risk? In the next chapter, we will explore inequality and mobility more deeply. Is upward movement still realistic? Or is the distance between social classes growing? The American dream continues, but the weight it carries is increasing, and not everyone carries the same burden. Chapter 6: Inequality and Mobility. For many years, the American dream was simple. Parents believed their children would live better than they did. This belief was powerful. It created motivation. It created patience. It created sacrifice. This idea has a name: social mobility. Social mobility means movement. Movement from one economic level to another. A factory worker's child becomes a teacher. A shop assistant's daughter becomes a doctor. A poor family enters the middle class. This was the promise behind the American dream. But promises must face data. And data sometimes tells a complicated story. In recent decades, inequality has increased in the United States. Some people earn very high incomes. Some people own large amounts of wealth. At the same time, many workers see little growth in wages. The distance between the top and the bottom has grown. Wealth is not only about income, it is about assets, savings, investments, property. When wealth concentrates in fewer hands, opportunity can become uneven. But inequality does not mean mobility disappears. Research shows mobility still exists. However, it depends on location. Some regions offer strong public schools, stable neighborhoods, access to health care, job opportunities. In these areas, children have higher chances of moving upward. In other regions, schools struggle. Jobs are limited. Public services are weak. In these areas, mobility is lower. Place matters. Environment matters. Family background matters. Education still plays a central role. Children from families with higher income often attend better schools. They receive tutoring. They have access to networks. Connections can open doors. For lower-income families, opportunities may be more limited. Hard work remains important. But structure also matters. Institutions matter. Policies matter. The American dream was built on the belief that effort leads to progress. That belief still motivates millions. Immigrants continue to arrive. Students continue to study. Entrepreneurs continue to innovate. Technology creates new industries. Digital platforms create new careers. Remote work expands options. In some ways, opportunity is more global than ever. A person can start a business online, sell products internationally, work from different locations. Mobility now includes digital mobility, not only physical movement, but virtual movement. Yet challenges remain. Housing prices in major cities limit access. Healthcare costs create pressure. Higher education requires investment. The cost of living differs between regions. Urban centers offer jobs, but they are expensive. Rural areas may be affordable, but job options are fewer. The path upward is not identical for everyone. Race, geography, family income, these factors influence outcomes. This reality has created debate. Some argue that the American dream is weakening. Others argue that it is evolving. It may not look like it did in the 1950s. It may not be automatic, but it still exists in new forms. Consider innovation. A small technology startup can become global. Consider education platforms. A student in a small town can access online courses. Consider remote work. A worker can live far from expensive cities. The system is complex. Opportunity and inequality exist at the same time. The American dream is not a straight line. It is a landscape with hills and valleys. Some climb faster, some face obstacles. Some begin at higher positions, others begin lower. The important question is not whether inequality exists. It does. The important question is whether mobility remains possible. Can someone born into a low-income family rise? The answer is yes, but it may require more support, better schools, fair access, economic stability. Mobility is influenced by policy, by economic structure, by social investment. The American dream was always an aspiration, not a guarantee. It was a belief in movement, in possibility, in change. Today, that belief continues. But it competes with data, with statistics, with economic realities. The dream is under examination, measured, analyzed, debated. In the final chapter, we will ask a simple question. What does the American dream mean today? Is it wealth, security, freedom, or something more personal? The story is not finished. It is still being written by millions of lives every day. Chapter 7. A Dream, Reimagined. For more than 100 years, the American dream has changed. It was born in crisis. It grew in industrial cities. It expanded in the post-war suburbs. It accelerated in the age of finance and technology. It became heavier in the era of debt. It became more complex in the age of inequality. Now we arrive at the present, and the question returns. What is the American dream today? For some people, it still means wealth, a successful business, financial independence, a large house. For others, it means stability, a secure job, affordable health care, a safe neighborhood. For others, it means freedom, freedom to speak, freedom to create, freedom to move between careers. The image is no longer single. It is plural. Different generations imagine it differently. Many young adults today do not expect the same life as their grandparents. Home ownership may happen later. Marriage may happen later. Career paths are less linear. A person may change professions several times. Remote work allows new choices. A worker can live far from a large city. A digital entrepreneur can serve global customers. Technology has reshaped ambition. Social media displays success constantly. Entrepreneurs share stories online. Influencers speak about financial freedom. Startups promise rapid growth. The dream can look immediate, fast, accessible. But reality is still complex. Starting a business carries risk. Markets fluctuate. Technology changes quickly. Economic cycles continue. The American dream remains connected to uncertainty. At the same time, awareness has increased. People speak more openly about inequality, about access to education, about healthcare costs, about systemic barriers. Debates continue, policies change, public conversations evolve. The dream is not only personal, it is political. It is social. It is economic. It reflects the structure of society. Some analysts argue that the American dream has weakened. They point to data. They show rising costs. They show wage stagnation. They show housing pressure. Others argue that the dream has transformed. They point to innovation. They show immigrant entrepreneurship. They show digital mobility. They show new industries. Both perspectives contain truth. Because the dream was never static. It was always adapting. In the 1930s, it was about dignity during crisis. In the 1950s, it was about suburban stability. In the 1980s, it was about ambition and expansion. In the 2000s, it was about education and debt. In the 2020s, it may be about flexibility, balance, purpose. Some young people value time more than possessions. They seek meaningful work that aligns with personal values. Environmental awareness influences career choices. Social impact influences entrepreneurship. Success is not only measured by income. It may also be measured by freedom, by autonomy, by impact. Immigration continues. Families still cross oceans. Students still apply to universities. Entrepreneurs still create companies. The belief in opportunity remains strong worldwide. The American dream still attracts imagination. But perhaps the most important change is this. The dream is no longer assumed. It is examined, questioned, redefined. People ask, what kind of society supports mobility? What kind of policies expand access? What kind of education prepares future generations? The dream now includes reflection. Not only aspiration, reflection about fairness, about balance, about sustainability. The American dream is not a fixed object. It is a conversation between generations, between data and hope, between reality and possibility. It is written by millions of individual lives. Some stories show upward movement. Some show struggle. Some show innovation. Some show resilience. The dream continues, not as a guarantee, not as a myth, but as an ongoing question. Can effort still lead to improvement? Can opportunity be expanded? Can mobility be strengthened? The answer is not simple. But the conversation itself keeps the dream alive. And perhaps that is the final lesson. The American dream survives not because it is perfect, but because it is debated, reimagined, and pursued. By people who still believe that the future can be better than the present. The story does not end here. It continues in classrooms, in workplaces, in families, in policies, in decisions. The American dream is not a destination. It is a direction. And the direction depends on the choices society makes next.